Do you mind if I double dip? Here's a second video for you. I hope I can get through this one just once. So I was looking at a comment from Sincerely Stephanie, and she was saying how it takes her a lot more than 3 tries. Well, sometimes it takes me 20 too. So, I mean, I get that. And I decided to go and take a look at her channel, Sincerely Stephanie, and I highly advise you to go, especially her first video. I like to go back. When I do a channel, I want to go see what that person started with. So it was like 7 months ago. That's what YouTube says. She did the video, I quit after 40, 5 changes that changed her life, right? And she talks about midlife crisis, which I don't really remember very well. My mother, in my 40s, my mother had congestive heart failure and died. And my youngest was 7 years old when I was like 48. When I was 41, I had a baby. Midlife crisis, I don't think I had a chance to have one. Okay. So I can't really, but awakening to a new life, boy, that really resonates with me now. And I'm going to do another video eventually about it because I have had thoughts in my mind, but I want to go over her 5 changes. And because she asks, about your life, and there's no way I could answer it in a sentence or two. Her video just really grabbed me. It took a hold of me. I really saw a lot of the things in my own life. I'm like, oh, yeah, totally. I remember that. So the first thing she talked about is to stop explaining why or why not. Um, she talks about, people saying, why did you do that? And, questioning ourselves, why didn't I do this? And um, I think that more now than I did then in my 40s. I think it's like I've questioned myself. Why didn't I get a career? Why did I want to be a mother and wife? Why was that the main focus since I'd been 14? That was my goal, my aspiration. I just wanted to be a mother and a wife, but I wanted to live on a farm, and that didn't happen because, as Dennis told me back then, I'm a merchant, not a farmer. And I loved him. So I said, well, you ain't leaving me here. I'm coming with you. So, that kind of like that part. And I don't think I ever really explained myself after junior high school because, boy, kids were cruel. And I quit school in my first year of high school anyway. So I was like, this isn't for me. I'm wasting my time. So I left. Just walked out one day and rode my bike to the beach. 15. Back in New Hampshire, in 15, you could quit school on your own without parental permission. So I think I had stopped explaining why. It was kind of like, this is who I am, and don't forget it was the 70s, and there was a lot of influence from the 60s, and so, let it all hang out, and make love, not war, and I don't know. There was just a lot of stuff going on that I knew I didn't have to explain anything. And then the fourth one she talks about is that she stopped going to church, to functions where she felt she was going to be the focus of attention in a negative way. And, in my case, my family was very judgmental. My mother was very isolated. She preferred not to go. And for years while I was very little, I remember ages 5 to 8, going to a lot of it was a big family, 9 of them, right? And aunts and uncles, cousins. And we'd get together pre-Thanksgiving, and then we'd exchange names, and we'd do gifts pre-Christmas, and just stuff like that. It was always a big to-do with fantastic food and beautiful cakes, and it was awesome, right? But something happened, and I think the tolerance between them all faded away. And my mother didn't want to see some of her siblings anymore. And I've always had a really hard time. Well, did I want to cover that in number 4? No, number 5. I never connected. I never connected well with other people. And when I did, in childhood, it was always taken away from me. Either they moved away or I moved away, and friendships that were very special disappeared. And then later in life, I noticed if anybody got too close in my teen years, I walked away. I didn't want the encumbrances of the effort, I guess. Stopped going to church, she says. Yeah, me too, because I started out as a very serious Bible student at the age of 13, and this had been this had been inspired by my uncle, who was an elder of a church that they had created themselves. And as I got older and I kept trying to find my way, I even tried the Catholic Church for my husband's sake. But I said to him, it's not for me, sweetie. That's not how I see scripture, I had too much in my head. And I remember questioning, bless his heart, the priest. We'd have like deep conversations about doctrine. And I'd say, why do you believe that when the Bible says this? And why do you think that? And he never had a really good explanation. And therefore, I told Dennis, I can't do this anymore. So I get the church thing. And then I tried other churches with him. And, some bad things happened. And I closed off completely and said, if my family is not safe, even at church, I'm not going. And so I just started studying on my own, me and Dennis, and sometimes with the kids, and sometimes with other people we met or knew. And it just, parties and stuff. As I got older, events. Dennis and I went to a lot of AA events, young in our relationship. And he was going to AA. That's how I met him. And we went to meetings together a lot, and then we started going separately, and I started going to some of the women's meetings, and some of the stuff really bothered me because I was very religious, and it didn't go right. It didn't go well with me. Family, I had a lot of trouble with my own family in that they were crazy. Yes. Well, that's how it goes. And I find my relationship with my children is very tight, and I think we're kind of, the girls and I'd say, are closer maybe than me and my sons, in that we talk almost every day. And so, there's that. She says she denied access to herself on social media. I get that, Facebook. I tried to start an Instagram channel, and I just was like, no. And so I didn't continue with that. And I thought about TikTok, but really, the more I get into the YouTube thing, the more I want to pull out. I know my channel's coming to an end. When, I'm not sure, but I know it's coming because I understood some of the things she said, like, you start to feel like people are watching you just to entertain themselves, almost like kind of taking advantage of, who you are. And I think that's a lot in with trolls and the ones who want to constantly criticize you and critique you and find fault with you. And thank God I have a really, I have a iron spine. not literally, unfortunately, but emotionally, I'm a hard ass, and nothing gets to me. As a matter of fact, I find more comedy in the critiques and the trolling than insult. I just like, what's wrong with these people? Like, do they have a life? Clearly not. And so, so I find that kind of funny, but I do get that feeling of, wow, I'm doing this channel, I'm putting myself out there, I'm doing a lot of work, but, you know, is it appreciated? Well, that doesn't matter now because the reason I started it was I wanted to touch base with other widows. I wasn't finding what I needed in channels about what was happening to me as a widow when I lost my husband in 2021. Lordy, my fourth year's coming to an end and I'm going to enter my fifth year of widowhood. But, and something else she was saying, oh, and that would be number one. So let's wait on that one. She talked in 3 about that and just the magic of life, and I've talked about that myself, when I changed the channel name to the Magic Marshmallow after my van, which has stolen all my savings, and now I'm going in debt for it. I gotta laugh, guys. I'm sorry. I gotta laugh. Laugh or cry, right? So, it's okay. It's okay because what have I got to lose? What can anyone take from me? I have nothing left but the van. Don't take that, Lord. Okay, so, yeah, the magic. I think the older I get, the more magic I see in life, I have an amazing life. And I'm going to talk about that in another video, but not until I get started and get moving. I've been waiting 11 years for this dream of traveling in a van. And it's about to come to fruition, and I'm very excited about it. We'll talk about the magic more later. But she fired herself, number 2, from Friends. Boy, do I get that one. As I started to make more friends later in life, in my 40s and 50s, and when Dennis got sick at 58, and I realized that all those years I was giving and doing and caring and going the extra mile, they were not. And soon they fell away from my life because nobody wanted to watch what was happening. I don't know if they were afraid that I was going to ask for help or money. I mean, I did ask the woman who bought my house in Milo. I said, hey, you want to earn some money? I need someone to come to the house and help my husband get his meals. They'll be already in the freezer, and all you have to do is nuke them, give it to him, see if there's anything else he needs, leave, and come back, right? And I paid her very well for that. And I didn't mind because I had the money then. And but I never, ever asked for favors that I know of. Maybe one friend who's still my friend. I may have asked for some help there, and I know I received some, but I always tried to give as well and never take advantage. And I hope that friend never felt like I did. So firing myself from Friends, I did that. Yeah, I was like, I remember I had Jane Seymour. She was an actress I really liked. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Remember that one? And then I loved her in The Scarlet Pimpernel. If you've never seen her in The Scarlet Pimpernel, you need to. It was really, if you love old-timey romantic, the French Revolution, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, what was I talking about? Oh, no, don't do this. Oh, right, Friends. And she had talked about in an article, she got very ill and thought she was going to die. And she reevaluated her whole life. I've talked about this before in another video long ago. And she had to cut off the people around her that no longer served her, made her feel well. And I don't mean like servant served her. The ones that didn't enrich her lives, she cut it off. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you just don't want the malarkey. I can't think of another word than malarkey. So I got that. I totally got that. And I had to do that too. Number one, the leftovers. And I can't remember what the leftovers was about, but I know I put a note here. Losing myself. Being the leftover, right? She talked about always doing the family dinners and get-togethers. She has 8 children. I can't wait to hear more about that. And bless her heart, her and her husband. How very cool. I wish I had had more children, but Dennis wouldn't let me after Bonnie because he was afraid I'd die in childbirth because she was a shoulder dystocia, and Denny Jr. was a shoulder dystocia, and it was very frightening for him. Yeah. And so I get it. But, yeah, I lost myself. Dennis was a formidable force. He was, as Rachel said, a force to be reckoned with. And I remember I was thinking today at the sink about a lot of things, but I remembered one of the psychiatrists at the end that I was taking him to, and I said, do you think this is a mental illness, his sickness? He said, no, this isn't mental illness, but I'll tell you what I do know about Dennis. I know he's going to demand what he wants and get it. I don't know how he knew that because Dennis never talked to him, and Dennis just sat there with his head down, as he always did, and he was very silent and said nothing. And I was like, how did he know that? He must have seen the body language between us because, being a Bible student, wives were to be submissive to their husbands, not in be a doormat, but Dennis took advantage of that. He did. And I let him be head of the household, even though oftentimes he wouldn't be. And so I was in constant turmoil because of this. And I lost myself. I didn't know who the hell I was by the time he died. And I've been fighting my way back ever since. Who the hell am I now? I'm not really an active mom. I'm not a wife. I'm not a helper in his business. I'm not even a helper in my own business. What am I? Well, I'm a senior and a retiree now. And I'm a woman, self-determined. I get to determine my future and the rest of my life. Totally blows my mind, guys, okay? It blows my mind. Self-realization. I get to be anything I want to be. And the one thing I've always wanted to be, guys, from a little tiny, tiny girl just walking, is I just wanted to be free. What does that mean to me? Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? And so I'm asking you to go and have a look at Sincerely Stephanie. She could use some viewers, some subs, and I think you will greatly benefit on her thinking, her life, and I'm going to go listen to some more. I was actually heading to go listen to, what was the name of that documentary I really liked where Bob Wells is introduced to the YouTube world, Without Bound. I'm going to go back and see that again because there's a lot in there that really resonated with me in 2014 when I was looking for alternative retirement ideas. And that came up and I was like, I did that. I remember like 10 years on the road with a husband, 3 children, a ferret, a lovebird, and various hamsters because they don't live long. We were the traveling circus. Yes, indeed. And you know what? In thinking back over my life And I had that conversation recently with Bonnie. Thinking back over my life, I asked myself, what would I have done differently? Because sometimes I'm like, why didn't you get a career? Why didn't you go into real estate? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? I didn't want to. And knowing who I am and who I was, I wouldn't have wanted to either. The best years of my life were the years I spent with Dennis, hell or high water. Him being a, difficult man or not, I wouldn't change a damn thing. I had some amazing experiences and travels, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm about to do if it weren't for what him and I did. Of course, it wasn't all him. I took off at the age of 20, 21, and I went over to Europe for a year and, did that and saw what I could there and came back. Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. Nope. And we're going to do another video about that when I'm on the road because I have some things I want to say. But meanwhile, I really enjoyed your video, Stephanie, and I'm going to watch some more. And I hope my viewers and my subs will go and watch you too, because I think you have a lot to offer. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.